Hola amigos, Ghost here, and today we continue our bonus Bookends series on Ghost of Tsushima. In today's Bookends, we shall talk about the main story of Ghost of Tsushima and the DLC story of its expansion, Iki Island. Specifically, we will talk about the story through three major themes of the game that I believe perfectly encapsulates the beautiful tragedy of the legend of the ghost. So with that said, let's do this! The first theme that I would like to explore today is the following: how war changes people, and how it changed Jin Sakai. At the beginning of the story, Jin, his uncle, and the samurai of Tsushima confront the Mongol invasion of their home. Jin is ready and willing to give his life for his people, but he would not die that day. The Mongols were too many, too strong, and prepared for the samurai. Jin's uncle was captured and Jin, wounded, left for dead. Jin followed samurai tradition and it led him to this fate. But the fortunate arrival of Yuna kept him alive. Recovered from his wounds, Jin stubbornly tried to save his uncle by keeping to tradition. Once again, he fails. Jin is brought to his lowest point. "Father, how do I save him?" he pleads. And if by fate itself, Tsushima answers with the wind that leads to Yuna. Yuna's brother, Taka, was a blacksmith with the skills to help Jin. But to find Taka and save him, Jin must take his first steps into his legend. He must forego tradition. He must change, adapt to save his uncle. And he does. Jin helps Yuna save Taka, and Taka helps Jin by forging an iron hook that can scale any wall, any mountain. In doing this, the first whispers of the ghost are made. Traveling across Izuhara mostly by himself, Jin is constantly challenged by the Mongols. He is forced to adopt new methods to fight back, at least at first. To kill from the shadows, to strike fear into his enemies. Over time, Jin began to embrace more and more new tactics, methods, and tools of war, all to save his uncle. But what would happen once he was saved? Seeking allies, Jin recruits Lady Masako, Sensei Ishikawa, and Ryuzo to his cause. All three have their own problems that Jin helps to solve. But in doing so, Jin sees what could befall him in the future. To be consumed by revenge, to become a monster, or fall into desperation. Such tales would have to wait as Jin and his allies launch their plan to rescue Lord Chimura. Desperation turned Ryuzu into a traitor, but Jin's own desperation and will won out, and his uncle was saved. Would Jin return to his traditional ways now, or continue to evolve into the ghost? Marching into Toyotama, Jin is forced to see his allies, including the new addition of Norio, fall into their destructive paths. Lady Masako consumed by revenge, Norio losing his faith, and Sensei Ishikawa confronting his grave mistakes. Along with seeing the destruction the Mongols continue to sow against his people, Jin makes his choice. He will do everything he can to save his home, use any method that will crush the Mongols. Honor be damned. We see this in Jin pressuring his childhood caretaker, Yuriko, to make him and teach him how to make deadly poisons. Poisons that were never the Sakai way, the samurai way. At Yarikawa, his ghost identity becomes a rallying cry as he develops a terrifying ghost stance. But the chance to forego this change is still there. At Fort Mitudoke, Jin's uncle tells him that once the war is over, Jin will be his son, his legacy. For that, the ghost would have to die. This chance, though, is fleeting as the death of Taka by Khotan Khan, the leader of the Mongol expedition, and the following battle for Castle Shimura takes place. Lord Shimura's ways would only mean death for Jin's people. Only the ghost's methods would prevent further bloodshed. And Jin's want for revenge leads to him embracing the ghost. Jin killed Ryuzo, poisoned the Mongols in the castle, and breaks his uncle's heart. I am not your son. I am the ghost. Jin is imprisoned while his remaining allies travel north to Kamiagata. His imprisonment isn't long, and soon he travels north too. There, Jin continues to evolve further into his ghost persona while seeing the consequences for doing so. The Mongols know of his poisons, and they have learned to make them. His allies mirror his change. Lady Masako gets her revenge, but is left empty and broken. Norio, broken by his brother's death and the loss of faith, becomes a ruthless monster. Sensei Ishikawa learned to be better and pushes this onto Jin, though this lesson would have to wait. The ghost, his allies, and even the samurai under Lord Shimura join together in one final battle against the Khan. The ghost is victorious, and the Mongol threat is over. The war is over. However, Jin is still the ghost, and Lord Shimura is still stuck in tradition. A duel of fates occurred. Jin wins, and he has two choices. Grant his uncle a honorable death, or let him live. The war changed Jin into the ghost, made him choose to use any method he could to save his people and avenge those lost. But did that make him a monster? Did that make him honorless? For good and bad in the eyes of everyone around him, Jin was transformed into the ghost because of the war, because of his desperation to save his uncle, because of his responsibility to his people, because of his want for revenge. What choice would he make for his uncle's fate? The second theme that I would like to explore today is this: legacy, a father's legacy, the legacy of the past. Whatever choice Jin made within his family's cemetery that day, two things were certain. His uncle's legacy was ruined, tainted with failure and the loss of Jin. And Jin's fate was sealed. He was the ghost forevermore. And his legacy was one that inspired people to fight tyranny, oppression, and protect their homes. Jin was now an enemy of the shogunate, despite Jin never raising a sword against those he'd called allies and friends. Jin would be hunted for the remainder of his life. But as long as his people were safe, he did not care about being hunted. He was no longer samurai, and forgoing the samurai's honor for his own code. His journey seemed to be at an end, but the past came calling. The Mongol invasion did not just invade Tsushima, it invaded Iki Island and Kyushu too. The Mongols under the eagle sought to conquer Iki both physically and spiritually. During this process, the eagle sent men to Tsushima. This forced Jin to travel to Iki to put an end to the eagle's plans. Unbeknownst to Jin at the time, he was embarking on a journey which would force him to reconcile with his past and his father's legacy. Surviving a storm during his travel to Iki, Jin is captured by the eagle and forced to drink a special medicine which would, over the course of his time on Iki, plague him with visions of his past and the many choices he made on Tsushima. Thanks to the help of a pirate named Tenzo, Jin escapes and slowly begins to make allies with the pirates of Iki and liberate the island from the eagle. With every step and every conversation, Jin is reminded of his father's fate and legacy on Iki. Kazumasa Sakai was a cunning leader and brutal warrior. The death of his wife, Jin's mother, due to sickness, changed Kazumasa. He became cold and distant. He pushed Jin away at times and pushed Jin to become a samurai like himself in other times. Kazumasa invaded Iki to bring it to order, but in trying to, Kazumasa slaughtered villages, killed innocent and guilty alike, and in ways acted no better than the Mongols. And yet, he tried to re-enter his son's life through training him during the expedition. This path of violence led to his death by the hands of a pirate, while Jin watched from a distance. Jin was left without any family other than Lord Shimura, and Kazumasa left a legacy of death on Iki, which left generations to hate the Sakai name. From the remains of battlefields to stories from the locals, Jin is forced to relive the past over and over again. Was he heading down the same path? Will the ghost be remembered for the blood he shed, the violence he sowed? The guilt for not saving his father weighed heavy on his soul, and his father's legacy continued to reopen his wounded heart. To make matters worse, despite beating back the eagle's forces across the island, Jin was no closer in curing himself of the eagle's medicine. And to add salt to the wound, Jin learns that Tenzo was the pirate that killed his father all those years ago. Anger, hatred, and vengeance entered Jin's heart. Was he about to fall to vengeance like Lady Masako and Norio? Was he going to repeat the same pattern with his crusade against the Mongols? Jin stayed his blade for now. The eagle's defeat and Iki's liberation had to come first. Everything came together in Senjo Gorge, the place where Kazumasa was killed. Jin, Tenzo, and the pirates fought through the eagle's forces. Jin and Tenzo confronted the eagle. They were on the verge of victory when Jin faced the worst vision yet. He faced Kazumasa himself. His father told Jin that their clan was tarnished, that sometimes what is necessary is also terrible. The same justification Jin used to fight the Mongols. The actions I took were not easy, but they needed to be done, Kazumasa justified. Jin was becoming a mirror image of his father. But Jin is not his father. He had to be better, to do better. Kazumasa was not the father Jin needed. Kazumasa was himself broken, and this broken man demanded Jin to wipe the stain clean from their clan and kill Tenzo. But Jin refused. He must be better than his father. He must not let his legacy be defined by violence like his father's. Jin will not fall down this path that consumed Lady Masako, Norio, and his father. Kazumasa's choices were his own, his legacy his own, and his death was not Jin's fault. With his guilt gone and his mind clear of the medicine and of hate, Jin saves Tenzo and kills the eagle. Iki is free, and the people accept Jin for his actions, not his father's. The past is behind Jin. Tenzo is forgiven, and the ghost's legacy will be one of not just violence and protecting his home, but to be better, to do better. Whatever end awaits Jin, it will be one where he leaves behind a legacy that others can aspire to. The final theme that I would like to explore today is the concept of reality versus idealism. Throughout Ghost of Tsushima, the concept of reality versus idealism can be seen between the clashing viewpoints of Jin's ghost identity and Shimura's honor code. The ghost uses every advantage he can use to win the war against the Mongols, even if it means using poisons and fear tactics. The ghost strikes terror into his enemies, strikes from the shadows, and gives the people the power to fight for themselves. The ghost is willing to adapt to fight a war. Shimura's samurai code is not. Honor demands the samurai to face their enemies head-on, to fight and die in the service of their shogun and the people. Honor dictates traditions the samurai had built for generations, loyalty to their lords, control over their emotions, and the honor to fight bravely and with integrity. Both sides have their positives. The ghost succeeds in saving his home. It allows for adaptation and survival, and it inspires the people. But it also turns Jin into the enemy of the samurai, and it lets him commit actions that have dire consequences. The Honor Code gives Shimura, Jin, and other samurai the skills and discipline to seek the noble intention of protecting the people. But at the same time, it is what causes Shimura to lose his family. It causes the samurai to lose their lives. It fails to win the war, and its inflexibility is what results in Jin's desperation that in turn leads to the ghost being born. Despite what Jin and Shimura say about honor, both sides are honorable for different reasons. But it's these different reasons that caused the divide in the first place. Historically, the samurai were not some loyal to the end, honor-bound warrior class. The samurai were a deadly and brutal group of warriors with the status of nobles and elites. Even the poorest samurai held life and death in their hands and controlled the peasant class. They had a twisted sense of honor that evolved as the samurai evolved through the ages. They were loyal to a point. If their lord didn't reward them for their service or an enemy clan offered better, the samurai would betray their original master. Now, were there some samurai with a true sense of honor? Probably, but they were a minority of a minority. The samurai did what was necessary to win, from straight-up deception and fear tactics to full-on field battles or terrible sieges. Gunpowder weaponry was quickly adopted when it was first arrived to the islands. The Sengoku Jidai was nearly 2 centuries of violence and betrayal. The Japanese invasion of Korea, called the Imjin War, which lasted from 1592 to 1598, resulted in countless innocent people being slaughtered by the samurai. The picturesque samurai of honor and loyalty came during and after the Edo period and in the imperial era, and was spread further in art, movies, TV, books, and other media. Ghost of Tsushima shows this idealized version through Lord Shimura, while the Ghost depicts a more accurate version of the samurai of history. And the game tells you that both sides are in the right and wrong for the actions the characters commit, and because of the other 2 themes we talked about today. At the end of the day, idealism and reality can clash over their differences, but it is when they are compared and contrasted through a story where they can truly shine the most. Overall, these themes are the core of the game's story, of its many characters, and even its world. From characters like Norio, who take inspiration from the ghost and combine it with their hatred, which results in terrible actions, to hot springs and haikus, directly or indirectly revealing the thoughts of Jin as the story progresses. Without these themes, Ghost of Tsushima and its DLC wouldn't be the game that it is. And it is this presentation of the story that gives me the highest hopes that Ghost of Yote will be another great story told. Lastly, as I write this, record this, and edit this bookends, my final journey into Ghost of Tsushima is complete, as I have finally achieved the last trophy I was missing, one that befits this bookends perfectly. A legend for all time. And with that, we conclude today's Bookends chapter. It has been an amazing journey replaying this game, diving into the real history behind it, and talking about the aspects I love about it. Our Bookends series is drawing to a close, just in time for Ghost of Yote's release. But we still have one more chapter to go. Until then, I hope you all enjoyed today's Bookends chapter as much as I did. Until next time, this is Ghost, signing out.